about having to kill people in a gunship. Not good, but war left such a bad taste in my mouth that and you can ask my family, I don't hunt. One of my daughters had me clean a fish this summer, and I still feel guilty about cutting its head off. I just don't want to kill anything. I told myself I wouldn't kill anything again. I have not followed that rule exactly because there was an incident in Vietnam where I got stung somewhere between 1 and 200 times in about 10 seconds by bees, and I react to them. Now, I still won't kill a bee because we're losing our bees, and it wasn't their fault. It was my stupidity that did it. But wasps and things like that, when they get near the door, I blast them because I will react to those, and I feel like I protect myself. But I'm crazy enough to pick up crickets and things like that and carry them outside. I don't kill them. I just don't. That's one thing it did to me. I don't feel like I have the right to take. That's all that little thing has is its life. I don't want to take that away from it. And how do I feel about having to kill? At the time, you don't consider that because you're in a life and death situation. And you got to remember, they're all trying to kill you, all of them. And when you're on the angry end of an AK or a weapon, it looks like a muzzle. The muzzle flash looks like a flash bulb, mainly. And it looks like as much people taking pictures of you with flashes down there. And you react like anyone would. You react with a survival instinct. You try to kill whatever's killing you before they kill you. But now, I wish man could somehow finally learn that war's not the answer. It's never worked. It never will work. I read the other day that the last year's Department of Defense budget, and if true, and I think it is, this statistic is obscene to me. 1 year, last year, was more money than all of the budgets of NASA combined since its inception in 1959 to date. That says to me there's some real serious priorities that need to be addressed. We could have Mars colonized. We could be going into intragalactic travel now. Maybe not inter, but intra. If mankind would unite and quit this damn fighting and squabbling over fences and flags. But we seem to be very slow learners in that area. And just think of what we could have done with all that money. But here we go, and we still have people today that are thinking about, that think the military isn't strong enough yet, and we've got enough nuclear power to blow the Earth out of orbit about 60 times. But, you know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yeah.
What?
How has it affected you, your experiences in Vietnam? So once you got home and dealing with PTSD and all the things you had to deal with, trying to live a normal
PTSD affects you at times when it affects you even when you think it's not affecting you. I consider a good effect of PTSD about what I just told you. I have much more respect for life in all of its forms. Much more. And I'm more cognizant of it. And I think that's a good thing. But it's affected me by realizing, being in that part of the world, and by realizing, first of all, how cushy and soft we have it in the West. Is most of that's a Stone Age society over there. The Montagnard people, the people in the mountains, for God's sakes, they live in hutches built on stilts. And when I went to visit, there was a translator there, and I asked him why they had it on stilts, thatch roof and everything. And he said in broken English, "It is to keep the Bengal tigers from eating us at night." And there's nothing like, I say, there's nothing like having a few 500-pound tigers roaming around your backyard ready to eat your ass if you don't watch it. I mean, here we are worried about whether our roses are growing, and they're worried about whether they're going to get eaten by tigers. So it's made me respect the quality of life we have here and the plight of most people on earth. Of the 7 billion, many of them have very poor qualities of life. And you're more sensitive to that. And that's what made me want to go into healthcare, so I could give back and try to help people.
What about you had a recurring nightmare when you got back for years, I think even after I was born. You can describe that a little bit.
The nightmare I had, unless I got drunk enough not to have it, and I'm serious about that, you would do anything to avoid it if you could, because it was a dream, but yet it was real. And what happened in the nightmare was that I would be flying the Huey, and I'd get my controls shot out, and I would be spinning in to the jungle. And just talking about it. And right before I'd hit, I'd bolt up in bed, just diaphoretic, sweaty, just completely drenched in sweat, heart racing. And that was the end of the sleep for that night. If it happened at midnight, then you got up. Oh, well. And that went on for years. I didn't have any way of stopping it. I saw no beneficial aspect of that at all. I suppose that's the nightmare you're referring to.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because there are others. That was the major one.
Yeah.
And there's some things I will not talk about. I told you once. I won't talk about that. It's just between, not that I did anything wrong, I didn't, but some things, a lot of veterans can't talk about it at all, any of it.
Yeah.
And, and so, did you have any other question there?
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear or watch this interview?
I believe it was Mark Twain who wrote a short story. I can't remember what the name of it was. I believe it was a Grim Reaper-like person in a cloak who came into a church just after they'd been praying for victory for their side. Victory. God, please give us victory in this war against these heathens or whatever. And Twain pointed out, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but in essence, in a loose paraphrasing of it, he was saying, do you realize what you're... Oh, it must have been good. The shrouded figure had to have been the maker, creator, God. Because he said, do you realize what you're asking me when you ask for victory? You're asking me to make their wives husbandless, their children fatherless. You're asking me to make them homeless and destitute, sick and miserable. And it went on like that. And the point being, there are no winners in war. There just isn't. There's a law in Newtonian physics, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And you must consider the people that take the brunt of the war, and those that take the spoils, and those that take the death and destruction. And in other words, what are you really doing? What are you really asking me to do? You're trying... I don't think you really understand what you're asking, what you're praying for. And I wish man would understand that that's really what war is. It's an inescapable conclusion if you just think about it. This patriotism and nationalism that winds up with men with rifles standing waving flags at one another and fighting over a piece of territory is archaic, ridiculous, and man just doesn't seem to get the point. I wish he would get the point.